Hello, everyone. This is Dino Chris from Prehistoric, and this is an extra episode. And this extra episode, we're going to be looking at a review of a book that actually came out last month, and that is this book, King Tyrant: The Natural History of Tyrannosaurus Rex. And this is by Mark Witten. And so this is actually a book that came out last month, like I said. And so I read through this book, and this is basically all about T-Rex. This is all about T-Rex and some of its relatives. And so let's actually get started here. So I actually have bookmarked some areas that I will be talking about today. And so chapter 1 is called Dinosaur Superstar. So this is basically talking about like how T-Rex became like this big mega star in terms of the dinosaurs. Like how did it become popular? And it talks about like the discovery of T-Rex and so on and so forth. And so it actually kind of shows some illustrations in here. So like you can definitely see some illustrations right here. So like a size chart compared to like say a T-Rex compared to a polar bear, modern day human, and of course a dog or a wolf, mainly a dog. And so yeah, and it has the T-Rex skull with the Andrewsarchus skull with there too. Yeah, and so this book has a lot of information, and so like here it talks about the discovery of T-Rex, and so here's Henry Fairfield Osborn, and you got Barnum Brown in the fur coat right here in the Badlands of Montana, right there, just basically taking some notes, because remember Barnum Brown did not like to take notes very often. And then it kind of talks about like how T-Rex got into the movies. And so like here is a poster of The Lost World, the 1925 movie. This is the original Lost World movie. And so but even though T-Rex's first movie was Ghost of Slumber Mountain, which is a silent film, and it's a very short film. You can go find it on YouTube. It's very easy to find. You can search for Ghost of Slumber Mountain, and you'll see the movie, and it's very, very short. It's a very short film. And then, of course, it does talk about like how like in the 90s, T-Rex got much more popular. And so here's like the reconstruction of the skeleton at the American Museum of Natural History when they actually did make the T-Rex have a more horizontal vertebral column instead of the upright stance that it usually had for so many years. And so it does talk about like Jurassic Park and how Jurassic Park actually kind of like made T-Rex a much bigger like superstar. But of course T-Rex was still a superstar nonetheless before Jurassic Park. It's just that the level of fame that it had was basically mainly about how was it presented in books, movies, TV shows, that sort of thing. And then here it talks about the highs and lows of fame of T-Rex as well. And so it kind of showcases talks about like how like the highs of fame is basically it's a very popular dinosaur. Everybody knows it around the world. But of course the low part of fame is that that people start trashing the dinosaur because of its popularity. And that's why like there's like a lot of people on the internet that have been saying T-Rex is overrated, and I understand that, but of course in my humble opinion, rating dinosaurs is not very smart at all. It's not very smart. That just kind of says to me is that you're putting a lot of bias into it. And look, I'm biased as well. T-Rex is one of my favorite dinosaurs. It's been my favorite dinosaur since I was a little kid. And I love talking about T-Rex. And when you actually think about people that are saying T-Rex is overrated, they're mainly saying that like T-Rex gets way too much attention. Like, I get it. Other dinosaurs do need to get more attention, especially other large theropod dinosaurs. Like, I do think Carcharodontosaurus needs to get more attention. I do think that even though Allosaurus did get some fame early on, I think now it's starting to become a little bit underrated, but even so, it's still a popular dinosaur. Give it credit give Allosaurus its credit. And then, of course, like Acrocanthosaurus deserves some attention. Carnotaurus is becoming more popular. Spinosaurus has already been popular since Jurassic Park 3. And so, like, yeah, we understand that. Is that, like, saying that T-Rex is overrated, but, like, I don't like using that word because that just kind of says is that you're rating animals basically because of popularity. You're not rating them based on how much information about these animals there are, and also T-Rex is the most studied dinosaur of all time. It's the most studied dinosaur of all time. Spinosaurus is getting there, is getting towards that. It's just that when you talk about other dinosaurs, like say the sauropods, the ankylosaurs, stegosaurs, and even some of the nodosaurs, they don't get too much attention that much, even though some sauropods do get some attention, like Brontosaurus, Apatosaurus, Brachiosaurus, like those get a lot of attention. But like talk about the other sauropods, like talk about like the Titanosaurs, for example, the largest animals to ever live, that sort of thing. And like I get it, I totally get it, but I don't rate dinosaurs anymore. I don't, because to me, it's just not a good look. It's just not a good look. Chapter 2, what in actuality is a T-Rex? And so this actually talks about the characteristics of T-Rex, and also what makes a Tyrannosaur. And so it's just basically talking about the family tree mostly, and like how numerous discoveries have actually made it considered to be one of the most iconic dinosaurs of all time. And so you do get phylogenetic trees, and so here's one right here in the book, and it's basically the Dinosauria parts and the Archosauria parts in that one. Then you get to the Tyrannosaur phylogenetic tree, or the family tree right here. And it does include some dinosaurs that actually have, some Tyrannosaurs that have been discovered on here. It's just that there's some that are not included in it, like the most recently named Conculu mongoliensis. Conculu mongoliensis was not even described yet when this book was actually being written. And so, this book is pretty much this chapter right here is just basically all about the Tyrannosaur family tree, and of course it talks about the skulls, like the different types of skulls that Tyrannosaurs actually have. Sorry about the glare, and you can see the other illustrations of some of the smaller Tyrannosaurs. This has got a lot of stuff in here, and of course it does talk about Tarbosaurus, and I think in this chapter, it does talk about Tarbosaurus a lot better than I think some other types of books that actually have come out about Tyrannosaurs. And so at least it actually gives Tarbosaurus its due and talks about the controversy of should Tarbosaurus be named Tyrannosaurus bataar because that was its first given name, even though that there's many differences from this dinosaur compared to Tyrannosaurus rex, and so they actually will still call it Tarbosaurus because Tarbosaurus is the separating name of Tyrannosaurus rex. And then it does get into the most controversial topic of Tyrannosaurus, and that is the Nanotyrannus debate, and also talks about the differentiation of some T-Rex specimens, and all that sorts of stuff in terms of individuality. It talks about individuality in that chapter as well. Sorry. And it does talk about the controversial topic of past couple of years, which is the Tyrannosaurus imperator, Rex, and Regina controversy. And it does state in here that there's not enough evidence to actually give to other species, separate separate species names for Tyrannosaurus just yet, because it's a showcase, because it's not fully there yet. We don't have the evidence to back it up yet, and that's why there was a rebuttal paper that came out not too long after that, like several months after that paper came out. And so that was actually talking about. And then it talks about Tyrannosaurus macraensis. Tyrannosaurus macraensis, one of the most recently named tyrannosaurs on here. But even though that there has been a paper that has come out saying that there might be some changes that will happen with this type of specimen. Then chapter 3 is inside and out, and so it talks about the anatomy of Tyrannosaurus rex. So it's about Tyrannosaur anatomy. It does get into the skull bits. I love that he uses Tyrannosaurus skull right here and showcasing like all the bones of the skull. I do like that because then it means it gives the reader a chance to actually see the anatomical stuff of Tyrannosaurus rex. And then of course you get the muscles. Where are the muscles placed? And that is an amazing piece of art right there, is talking about the Tyrannosaur, where the muscles go on Tyrannosaurus rex, because of the scars that are left in the bones of showcasing the like where the muscles were attached. And here we actually talk about like the foot and leg anatomy, and you can see that like pinched like bone right there in the middle toe. That is a very distinguishing feature of Tyrannosaurs, and it does belong into the Coelurosauria family group. And of course, talk about lungs, got to talk about the lungs, which is the air sacs that Tyrannosaurs actually had that is very similar to modern day birds. Most theropod dinosaurs will have this. Most theropod dinosaurs will have this, the air sacs that are very similar to birds. And so they breathe in more oxygen and all that sorts of stuff. And then it gets into like the microscopic level of some stuff, like some of the soft tissue stuff that was found, like right here. And then it does get into the topic of, did Tyrannosaurus rex have feathers, or was it mostly scaly? Now, Tyrannosaurus rex, in my opinion, did have feathers. It did have feathers. Now, when it was young, when it was a hatchling, like basically from hatchling all the way over to like its early teen years, it would have been covered fully in feathers, like a downy type of feathers. But as it got towards its teenage years, it starts losing those feathers, and they just start becoming more quill-like structures. And as an adult, they probably did have some quill-like structures, like say on the back of the skull, on the neck, and even on the arms. So that's probably where they would actually have. So Prehistoric Planet got some of that stuff correct, in my opinion, about Tyrannosaurus rex. And then here it gets a little bit more into the skull anatomy, and also like where like some bits of the body, and basically where some parts of the skull are actually have like where blood vessels and muscles actually are attached. And it does talk about the difference between a juvenile and an adult, which is great. Then it talks about the placement of the eyes. I love this illustration. This actually is so good. And it does give you the showcase of the eyes. Did it have the ossicular rings or did it not? Ossicular rings are very, very difficult to find in terms of fossils. Some of those ossicular rings will be fossilized and can be shown, but they're very, very thin and fragile. That's why there needs to be a fully complete skull in order to actually showcase this. Now, there are some museums that will have the ossicular rings in a Tyrannosaurus rex where the eyes are going to be, but that's still debatable of whether or not they did have them. I think they could have, but they probably were very, very small. They were very, very small, and they probably got washed away, or otherwise maybe like if the Tyrannosaurus rex died not too long ago, and then like scavengers would definitely go after the eyes, because like the eyes are probably going to be the like one of the tastier bits there. And then it does talk about, did T-Rex have lips and all that sorts of stuff. And then we get to chapter 4, breathing life into bones. And so like talks about how what was the animal like in real life, and also talks about like how it grew. So like you got the growth stages right here, and you get the growth stage exhibit in the LA County Museum. And so, yeah, it talks about that type of stuff. It does talk about like body mass right here. And so it talks about the 3 different types of specimens. So like you got the Wankorex, you also got the holotype, and also you got Sioux. Sioux it would be really, really bulky, whereas the Wankorex is a little bit more gracile. And so, yeah, that just showcases like that part. Talks about the brain, especially the endocast stuff. And so, like, yeah, it talks about the brain. And so you also have, it does show like Larry Whitmer's design of the brain right here. But what they show here of this one, I believe this is supposed to be the American Museum of Natural History specimen, because that's the one that Larry Whitmer reconstructed. And it does talk about like the parts of the brain, like where the olfactory bulbs are, where the cerebrum is, where was the optic nerve, and the hearing apparatus, the hearing organs, all that sort of stuff. And then it does talk about like body mechanics, like could T-Rex run? Was it a sprinter? Was it just mainly a fast walker? As an adult, it would be a fast walker, but when it was a juvenile, it would have been a runner. And then it talks about the muscle attachments, especially in the jaws, especially when it talks about biting power. Biting power is going to be talked about in this one, right there, showcasing like where the muscles are attached. And I like this part because I'm a sucker for learning about biting mechanics of prehistoric animals. It does talk about the arms, like what were the arms used for, and this page right here, I love this part right here, drawing where the muscles are in the arms and on the shoulders, and it talks about the range of motion that these arms actually had. And so you can definitely see in this one, in these two right here, it showcases like how far these arms would actually be moving. And so these arms had a very limited range of motion. So you're not going to have a T-Rex that is actually going to be like turning its arm, like doing this like we do, because it's not designed for that anyway. Then we talk about the land in then chapter 5, land of the tyrants. And so it's basically talking about like the ecosystem of Tyrannosaurus rex, and so and Tyrannosaurs in general. And it basically is mostly on Laramidia, but mostly on T-Rex, especially for like the Hell Creek lance formations. And so here we got the range and where T-Rex fossils have been found. That's what this is mostly about. And it talks about the states where the Tyrannosaurus rex fossils have been found. And then you got to talk about the other types of dinosaurs that it lived with. So, like, you got Triceratops, you got Leptoceratops, Pachycephalosaurus, Stygimoloch, Edmontosaurus, Allosaurus possibly. And then, like, Torosaurus, I'd have to mention Torosaurus. And it does talk about, like this part right here of possibly a different type of predatory battle right here is Quetzalcoatlus against T-Rex. Now, you see in this illustration is that you got 2 Quetzalcoatlus, and one Quetzalcoatlus is being bitten by a T-Rex, whereas the other one is trying to, like, defend its mate. And oh wait, no, it's actually got a Triceratops skull on there. It has a Triceratops skull in its mouth, whereas the 2 Quetzalcoatlus are actually trying to go after the thing that Tyrannosaurus rex has in its mouth. But of course, Tyrannosaurus rex is not going to give up that part that it's going to eat very easily, and so Tyrannosaurus rex is basically going to take whatever it's going to need and then let the Quetzalcoatlus eat the scraps. And then chapter 6, life, food, love, and death. So this is basically the life of Tyrannosaurus rex in terms of like how did it live, like what was its behavior like. And then in this chapter in 228, 229, all the way over to 230, those pages. I love this title for this whole honking thing right here. The predator versus scavenger non-traversy. I love using that. That was very clever, because we don't need to talk about this, because Tyrannosaurus Rex, we don't need to debate this. Tyrannosaurus Rex is a predatory dinosaur that hunts and scavenges. It's an opportunistic predator, like all modern day predators are. And it talks about like how it could catch its prey, and then we actually see like the bite marks on some fossils of like Edmontosaurus, Triceratops, basically showcasing like how powerful the bite really is, and like how did it catch its prey, even though that some of its prey did escape. And then we have to look at like the tail in terms of like how could it catch its prey in terms of like say look at the muscle masses of Tyrannosaurus Rex and Edmontosaurus. Now, you may think that Edmontosaurus and T-Rex are almost evenly matched when it comes to like tail muscle mass, but when you look at this a little bit more closely, T-Rex has much wider muscles than Edmontosaurus in terms of the tail. So that showcases that T-Rex was fast enough to catch its prey. And it talks about like some of the pathologies of some of the Tyrannosaurus Rex fossils. This is mostly from Sioux. Because like you got the bony straitjacket in the tail from Sioux, you got the broken ribs of Sioux, you got the massive infection on Sioux on the leg. And there's one from a toe pathology on one of the bones. I think that's from Jane, if I remember correctly. And so, yeah, that actually is mostly what it's going to be. And then Chapter 7, this is one of the final chapters, is called Death of a Species, End of an Era. So this is mostly talking about the KPG extinction event. I mean, no other way to describe it. And then one good illustration about this is actually showcasing the blast radius of this impact. And so you hit the Gulf, and then you got like the very proximal zone, so things that got obliterated right away, and then some that got like obliterated from the blast, and then some that were actually just a little too far away for like being incinerated, but it actually got some like shock waves and like the radiating stuff that coming out of the sky, the types of rock that was falling back on Earth, creating wildfires and all that sorts of stuff. A cloud of ash that covered Earth and blocked out the sun. And of course, it talks about the value of T-Rex in terms of like how it is in terms of like say how valuable it is to like paleontology, to the public, and all that sorts of stuff. And so, yeah, this book has got a lot of information. This will take some for like slower readers, this might actually take like maybe a few weeks to actually go through this book. But if you're like a very like good reader to the point where you can read like say maybe a couple of chapters, like a day, you can get through this like throughout an entire week. This is full of information. Not too bad of a read. There is some technical stuff in here, so I would probably say this is more likely for like people that are probably say like 13 and up. So if you're 13 years old and you love dinosaurs, you can go and get this book. And if you're an adult, you can go and get this book. Senior citizen, and for a senior, you can go and get this book. If you're very interested in T-Rex, if you're a fan of T-Rex, get this book. It's got latest information about Tyrannosaurus Rex. How I would rate this? I would rate this as a 9.5 out of 10. This is so good. Because like a Tyrannosaur fan like I am, this is a very well done book. Good job, Mark Witten. You did a great job of actually showcasing all of the information that is needed for anybody that is interested in tyrannosaurs, showcasing the latest research. And this is actually a really, really well done book. So go and get this book. And so it is a little bit heavy. So this is a very big book. This is a little bit heavy, but in terms of thickness, it's not too bad. But you get good illustrations. The illustrators are mentioned in like pretty close to the index, so you can actually see like all the artists and also some stuff that is actually in the public domain, like say the Lost World movie poster that isn't in the public domain. That is in the public domain, and so yeah. But anyway, book is a 9.5 out of 10. Go get it. Go get this book if you're interested in Tyrannosaurus Rex, or like interested in Tyrannosaurs, or you're just a regular dinosaur fan and you want to learn a little bit more about T-Rex and the latest information. Get this book. Go get it. That's it for now. I'll be now Monday. This coming Monday, based when this video does come out, when this video does get uploaded and come out, I will be putting out my extra episode of my review of the 2025 Walking with Dinosaurs reboot. So stay tuned for that. And then next week, Thursday, will be a Q&A episode. So stay tuned for that. And so if you got any questions about dinosaurs or another prehistoric life, feel free to email me at downtochris71@gmail.com, or just go to my Facebook page, Prehistoric Facts at Downtochris. Like the page, you post your questions in the comment section on any Facebook post. And remember, keep your questions short to the point. And also make sure you put it on the comment section. Don't put them on Messenger. Messengers for private conversations. And also for YouTubers out there, leave your questions in the comment section, because I do read them all. All of you guys that send me questions via email, Facebook, and YouTube. You guys are awesome. You give me some great questions for those Q&A episodes, so keep up the great work. And also make sure you keep your questions short to the point. You can also follow me on Instagram at dino.christopf. I post pretty cool stuff on there. You can also follow me on Threads. Same thing, at dino.christopf. I post pretty cool stuff on there as well. Also, take care of the people around you. And also for younger people out there, to make sure listening to parents, your teachers, and the guardians. It's the best motivation you can have for good education. It's very important to have a good education. With a good education, you get a good job in the future. That's for now, and I'll see you guys on Monday and also next week, Thursday.